Check, check, 1 2 1 2. For the people that's gonna watch this on a playback, you're tuned in with your host, Deshaun, aka Son of a Jones, one half of Enveonline. And as you guys know, we do our best to curate underground hip hop. Today, I have the honor of having a dope conversation with an artist that's doing a lot of work in hip hop right now. He goes by the name of Maze and currently has over 20 projects out in the last few years. Before I get into the questions, Maze, how's your day going, man?
I'm blessed, man. Busy, but that's a good thing. All the everything I got in my life right now are problems I asked for. So I'm blessed, man. I'm doing really good today, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. I like what's going on in hip hop right now. And it's the reason why I'm happy that your team, coach, set this up, man, because I was looking around, I'm like, it seems like there's a whole renaissance going on in underground hip hop. That renaissance is being it's like a multi-tier front. A couple bullet points, a little context before I hit you with this question. So when I say renaissance, it's like something we never saw before. Hip hop is a young genre. I think we just crossed 50 years not too long ago. The innovators in the past was young cats 18, 19, 20. This renaissance, everybody over 30 is popping. I don't know if you remember growing up, man. You told somebody to use a 30-year-old rapper, they tell you get out their face.
Right.
But right now in this renaissance, it seems like all the upperclassmen are doing a thing. Then we got the introduction to artwork, like behind you. You got a dope painting. So art is
hmm
being infused back into the culture of underground hip hop, man. So I want to ask you, how does it feel to be a part of this renaissance and what's going on in hip hop right now currently?
I think that it's always kind of been an honor to be a part of this because this is a culture and an art form and something that really had such a profound impact on my life and in so many different ways. So like you know, it took a while for I think for me to find myself as an artist and kind of like grow into who I am. And that's the beauty of being a little bit more seasoned. And me at 19 is a different that's a different animal. You know what I
Mm,
mean? But I'm grateful to be part of it as always. I think, I'm very opinionated. So, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings on it. But when it comes to just my role in it, um, you know, I feel like it is a responsibility and it's also, a blessing to be able to, you know, be a part of the art form and the culture that really, really like influenced me and kind of like gave me an outlet to really like express myself and to not go down the same path and like that I was either going down or that I saw other people going down and you know it's a blessing, man. Like it's not something I take lightly. Words are powerful and that's why I'm very careful with my words and I'm really you know just cognizant of the fact that the youth is listening, and
definitely.
even not just the youth, but just a lot of people, that are people look to music to not just vibe out, but they get a lot of influence from it, man, and our subconscious picks that shit up. So, you know, it's interesting to I've seen a couple of different circles and where it's came back around, so to speak. I've heard this term Renaissance used so many times, and you know, I guess it's fairly accurate. I think that every time that we have like these waves, it seems like classic hip hop just influenced you know different generations.
Hmm.
Where you know, um, I don't necessarily that's like one of the things about me, man. Is like the whole idea of maze is like I hate to put titles on things, because I think sometimes it glorifies it like to the point where it's cool and I love it, but at the same time, like it's different than the '90s, man. It's not the same tempos. You know, it's not the same exact thing. You know what I mean? So I think it should be able to live on its own. And once again, it's not just graffiti writing on trains and breakdancing and you know, records in the park and MCing during the break. I mean, it's totally different now. Like I consider the golden era of hip hop like 95 through 99. Those that was just like such an influential era,
Mm.
man. Like
You
that's
might be missing some years, but I'm with you on that.
hey man, it depends on the age. You could go 90 to 2000 if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
really wanted to.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So, but my favorite albums are like, between 95 and
Oh, I'm
99.
with you on that, man. I'm
So,
with you on that.
talk about like the AT aliens and it was written's and Dark and Hell is Hot and you know,
Vinny
uh
Vici from Ja Rule, a
yeah,
whole
man,
bunch
that
of
shit
other
was
stuff,
dope.
man.
So many good albums, man, and I was really blessed to kind of catch the tail end of that, as a kid, because my father was a musician, but he was more into like blues and um, you know, kind of classic rock. You know what I mean? So he wasn't like a big like my parents weren't listening to hip hop like that. You know what I mean? So hip hop
Okay.
was something that came out of like me being in that era, growing up, like you know, around alternative rock, grunge rock, punk rock,
Can I
hip
ask you?
hop.
Can I ask you something real quick? Because you
Come on.
just said something that added a question on. So my mother is kind of like your parents. So split home, mother father separated. I had to go to dad's house to listen to hip hop. At my mother's house, every time Tupac Shakur got in trouble, you see that Tupac Shakur, you're gonna end up like, oh man. So I had to sneak, and then going over to my father's house, my stepmother was a devout Christian, so
Oh
oh, she
yeah,
found a Wu Tang tape, and oh my goodness, that was
lost
so.
it.
So I want to ask you not to cut off your train of thought,
Come on.
but did you had to sneak to listen to hip hop growing up?
I was naturally just such a badass kid that like I don't think I mean not like that. I mean, my mom was super Christian, so like my
My
mom would never
stepmother.
like but yeah, my mom was not a fan of that type of music, but my pops was pretty open to like letting me listen to different genres, and like man, we was listening to Rage Against the Machine and Wu Tang, and like some of the Tupac records I had on my own, but he bought me like a Bone Thugs record when I was like 12, 13 years old. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, growing up around like, especially my Italian side, it wasn't like they were like, you know, like they didn't have virgin ears as they called it. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like,
Ah,
I didn't really have to walk on eggshells around my pops. He was pretty cool with like letting me listen to different genres and the hip hop I didn't really get into like as a sport like heavily until a little bit later on, like in my late teens, when I started writing and stuff like that and really getting heavy into it. Um, but no, I didn't have to sneak it like that. Like I had, I started building the Bible young. You know what I mean? So we had the CD booklet, which we used to call the Bible. And it would be everybody had their own. So I had a pretty good collection. I mean, there was a lot of. It's funny, man, because being on the East Coast, I listened to a lot of Cypress Hill because we were little weed heads, man. So
mm.
there was a lot of Cypress Hill going on at the time, and I just wouldn't play it in front of my mother or something like that. But my pops was pretty open to it, man. He was pretty cool with that. You know what I mean? Like my dad, like he sold life insurance in DC, man. So like he was no stranger. Like someone told him about NWA when I was probably like, 6, 7 years old or some shit. This is like 89, 90, 91, and he's over at the house quoting NWA and shit. Like, my dad, he's like he tries to be tapped in with everybody. You know what I mean? He
That's
tried to
what's up,
speak a
man.
little bit for everybody's language, and so he was pretty open to just hip hop in general, and he loves it now, man. Like, he's not just because of what I do, but he listens. If you're a fan of Kendrick, like, my dad just loves music. He loves art, just artistry in general. So, my mom don't. My mom probably never. My mom don't even probably know who Kendrick is. Like, she probably knows maybe if you said Tupac, but like my mom listens to Christian music, bro. Like
Yeah,
she,
it's like my
she
stepmother, man.
she not on that.
Yeah.
So, I didn't really have those conversations with her. And to be honest with you, man, I kind of just did whatever I wanted to do anyway, man. Like, yeah, they used to just kick me out the house if they didn't like it.
So when you was talking about your upbringing and talking about the music, you mentioned something. You said we each had our own CD or tape booklet.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's coming back around is the physical copies. Remember, the record labels told us streaming, streaming, streaming,
Mm-hmm.
streaming. Now,
Hmm.
people like myself and other people are buying vinyls, we're buying CDs, and we're buying tapes now again. So, for you to see the cycle of us growing up, and that's how we indulged in music, then to go through a whole streaming era, and then now to see that come back around. What are your thoughts on that, man? Are you happy that physical sales are back, or do you think it helps you as an artist, or what are your overall thoughts on that movement kind of coming back around?
Absolutely, I think it helps as artists, man. Like, it's a way for us to go direct to consumer. Um,
Definitely.
I think that when I was growing up, it was about like baseball cards and little mementos, and you have the CD booklet that would turn into a poster and shit like that. So like,
Mm-hmm. Thank
there was like
yous and
so
all
many
that.
exactly. So like, I think that it's very important, and I think that it makes more of an impact. Not that you have to take up this big carbon footprint or anything, because vinyls are probably one of the worst things for the earth. You know what I mean? They take years to break down, but at the same time, most people that
Hey, that's a
collect
lot of
vinyl,
stuff.
they keep it, and it's
Yeah.
like it's not just getting like you're not gonna find random vinyl records on the side of the
Oh
road. You
nah.
know what I mean? Like, so it's not like this, kind of like just like you printing coasters. Like in the '90s, it got so saturated for a while in the mixtape era, where it was like that was like the going rap kind of battle line was like, I use your CD for a
Oh
coaster or
yeah.
some shit. You know what
It's
I
a
mean?
weed
But
plate.
exactly, which that's not even a bad thing. Motherfuckers still be rolling up on vinyls and shit. I ain't mad at that. But at the end of the day, like most of my vinyl is still in plastic, and
Same
a
here.
lot
Yep.
of the physical stuff is. So like, I think it's very important, man. I think that that's why people look at West Side Gun and other artists like that are. I mean, he's definitely a pioneer in if you want to call it the Renaissance. I think he made a huge impact on physical merchandise, and that's something to take note of, man. Like,
Can I ask you
not to
something? Not to cut
yeah,
you
go ahead.
off, because you again you hit me with some stuff that's adding to this interview. I'm glad you
It's all
said
good.
West Side Gun because I'm from upstate New York. I'm from
Okay.
Albany and he's from Buffalo. But
Uh-huh.
there was a conversation not too long ago by a media platform by the name of Doggy Diamonds. He's big in underground hip hop, and he
Okay.
made reference saying that he doesn't think West Side Guns get enough credibility for being innovative, like you said. For the train of thought that you was going on talking about his artwork and stuff, do you think West Side Gun get the credit that he does in this art form?
I mean, I think it's hard to see how he doesn't, but I mean, maybe someone wants more. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the type of dude to pocket watch or, when I was younger, I would be a lot more critical. I would be more critical. I mean, I don't know, man. You want me to speak freely? I mean, I would talk more about the content than I would talk about his, like, I've seen 30 men in their 30s obsessed with that band. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's weird as shit to me. I mean,
I
maybe
feel you.
because I'm an artist, so I'm just like, hey, hats off to West Side. Like he definitely made his impact, and I think he's got more than the credit. In fact, I think a lot of people pull out the pedestal for these guys, and a lot of it's deserved. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Well deserved. I mean, coming from Buffalo, man, like, I've been upstate. Like, man, I've been up to like Binghamton and Johnson City and shit. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I've been
Binghamton's
up
by
north
me.
and like, bro, there's nothing out there. So it's like, no disrespect. You know what I mean? It's just to come from that area and make that impact is incredible. You know what I mean? So my hat's off to him. I think he's got the credit he deserves, though. I mean, his name is stamped in this shit. You know what I mean? It's hard to really find. I mean, you got everywhere, anyone from Freddie Gibbs, Tobe Nagiwe. I mean, they've all mentioned Griselda. You know what I mean? Like J. Cole. I mean, Lil Wayne. I mean, it's hard to think. I mean, they've had huge distribution deals with Rock Nation and Shady, and West Side's constantly moving product, and I mean,
All legal product.
yeah, allegedly, right? No, I mean, yeah, man. Like, no, I'm talking about like
Nah, I
hoodies.
got it. I got it. The merch and
Yeah,
stuff.
but that was a good clarification though.
Yeah.
Like you're right, you're right. I don't want to, I don't want, 100%. He out the streets. You know what I mean? So, but nah, man. Like if anything, I think that there's plenty of unsung heroes. Like who people don't talk about, and I always get in arguments with this shit because people. I don't think we talk about Action Bronson enough, man. I don't think we
Action
talk about.
Bronson.
I don't think we
I was
talk
about
about
to
Willie
ask
the
some.
Kid.
I was about to ask somebody not too long ago what happened to Action. I'm not saying he's not making music, but I just remember that time
He's
period.
not. He's not. He's a
I,
character. He does. He
I'm
does.
like,
He does a
dude.
show.
I'm like, come on, man. But yeah, he need to cook back in that booth.
My thing is like, bro, everybody has a run. Everybody has an idea of how they want to have the trajectory of their career go. Action Bronson did shit that most rappers don't get to do, which is travel the world and be like the
Anthony
he
Bourdain.
like the rap Anthony Bourdain, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you it's close to my heart because I'm on the foodie shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna relate to someone like Bronson before I can relate to someone like West Side Gun or Benny or Conway. Even though like
Yeah,
I seen
because you can't. I can't relate to. I never made a half a brick in a air fryer.
in the
Like
air fryer. I know
when he
everybody
said
going
that, I was
crazy on
like, "Yo, gun!
everybody going
Like we
crazy
got
on
air
TikTok.
fryers, but that's for chicken nuggets, man."
Everybody going crazy on TikTok and Snapchat with these
Yeah,
fucking air fryer videos. But no, that's the thing. Is like, look, I think that Action was definitely pushing New York hip hop, like that sound. You can call it Renaissance shit. So is Rock Marcy. So is Willie the Kid. And I think Action just had. I mean, that's why he had Willie and Rock on his records. I mean, he was in Sean Price, and like he was pushing that. And I think Griselda just took it and really just brought it to a different level. You know what I mean? Like I think it's all about timing and knowing your market. And I think that like especially in New York, like I'll be honest, you probably hear people talking about Griselda more than you talk about people from the city, man. And
can you, man? I like you, man. I like you, man. You hear this guy? They talking about. See, a lot of New York City guys are gonna get mad at me, and I got a lot of love for New York City. I used to live in Long Island. I got friends there, artist friends, and all that. But I don't think New York City is ready to admit that upstate is currently carrying the torch for New York.
yeah, bro, they gonna hate me now even more because they don't want to admit that Kendrick's on top of the fucking game either.
That's so.
So
That's so.
so hey, look, be offended, I guess. Who don't you have? I mean, it's not like this ain't like, bro, you guys got the 97 fucking Braves. You guys
I
got the
got
fucking
love
98
for New York City, but I'm just talking about from what you said for underground hip hop. 38 Special, Griselda, and then the list goes on. But I'll let you continue to go. I don't want to cut off your train of
Nah, you're
thought.
good, man. Like these are all good, and they're hot takes for sure. But at the same time, like I'm the type of person that's gonna call a spade, bro. Like I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Like when you really got people talking about the rap scene, don't get me wrong. In this underground space, plenty of people in the city, right? Like you talk producers, you got people like Spanish Ran, Vidon. You know what I mean? Like I don't know
V-Don's on
exactly.
everything.
I don't know where he's from exactly, but I know I'm pretty sure he's a city guy. But I mean, you got the whole church thing. You got just a lot of people in that scene that are from the city that are super dope. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That they got that sound too, bro. And New York has always been a breeding ground for just super talented MCs, bro. Coming from a smaller market, like I spent time in New York too. I lived in Queens for a minute. I kind of cut my teeth out there by the bridge, man, and even inside Queensbridge. So like when I was real young, I got good stories going out there, linking up with like legends, man.
Yeah, you talked
And
about linking up with Tragedy Gaddafi in prior interviews.
that's right. That's right. So Traj was definitely someone, man. Like I was on the run, dog. Like I had no business being in New York City, man. But Traj kind of took me under his wing in like the mid 2000s, and really introduced me to the bridge. And I met some of my best friends out there, man. Like to this day, like I'm in touch with people like Foul Monday and my homie Burns. He's from Astoria, and we tight to this day. And I was really cool with Killer Shah. He kind of also looked out for me when I was young and didn't really have like not like every day was like You know, sometimes I'd be like, shit, I can't be here tonight, so I'm gonna have to. And he was like, oh, I got you, bro. Let me hit up my boy. You could probably just stay at his spot. You know, I was winging it, bro. You know, I was living
Mm.
off Western Unions and on the run and shit. So like, you know, before he passed, he was like, you know, really close to me, and you know, just I built some really good relationships out there, man. And I also like learned the ways. You know, New York changed my life in so many ways. But one thing I've learned being in a smaller market, and then one thing that I've kind of like learned about LA and New York specifically is they're very, very prideful. And,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, and it's for a while, it was like, well, if you're not from there, it's like they don't
they
give a
didn't want to
fuck.
hear it.
Yeah. So, like, for me, I'm like, well, I'm from Arizona, dog. And, you know, granted, I grew up in Maryland and, you know, I spent time in the South and, you know, I spent time in Memphis, I spent time in Atlanta. And, you know, like, I'm a kind of a mixture of all that shit. And I don't, as much as I love to rep Arizona, man, like, before anything, I'm an artist and it's just me. You know what I mean? So it's more superficial when you just kind of pigeonhole yourself to just like, oh, I'm a New York rapper. Bro, it's art, man. And you know, if you're nice, you're nice. Like it's dope when you can actually hear somebody and you're like, yo, where's this dude from? I can't really tell. That's dope. You know what I
I'm
mean? And I
glad
got
you.
tired of like the ego. Like that's something I really got burnt out on. And that's kind of why I'm kind of trying to do my own thing, so to speak, you know, because I'm good with this hypercentric fucking my shit don't stink and I'm from here, so fuck everything else. Man, fuck that. That shit is
That
so
kind of messed up
childish.
the game. Yeah,
Like,
that messed up the game. It definitely did. I agree with you on that.
you know. But nah, man, you got to give flowers where flowers is due. And I think going back to your original point, like I think West Side is, I think he's definitely made a name, and I think that he's well respected. Um, you know, I think that it's not for everybody. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But Kendrick Lamar isn't for everybody. Eminem isn't for everybody. Shit. Right now, you put on DMX, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. If that were to come out right now, he would get canceled, bro. Like, that would
Yeah,
not
but
be for
that
everybody.
when I was in middle school and high school, goddamn, that was it right there. That yeah.
Crazy. So, you know, but it's dope that, you know, we're kind of coming back to and one thing I've learned too is especially with the impact that Griselda has made, God damn if there's not like a million cookie cutter Griselda sounded motherfuckers that is all doing the same fucking sound on the same type of beats. And it is just, you can tell when someone's made a mark when everybody cookie cutters that shit.
You gotta
And
you gotta remember not to cut you off. Like I'm almost 40 and I pretty much guesstimated your age. We're around the same age, close in age, if I may say.
you know, I'm
Like I
40.
I remember cats. As soon as one person blew in the 2000s, the record labels wanted you to sound like that artist. Like you literally could get signed by sounding like Jadakiss. Didn't matter if you sucked, didn't matter if your music sucked, but if you had the ad libs and bars like that person, you were getting signed. And now we're seeing the same thing going to your point.
It's
But
dangerous. It's
yeah,
dangerous.
but
It's
this is where I
dangerous,
want
man.
to this is where I want to commend you at. When I was digging through your catalog, you're not sounding like nobody. I don't hear nobody. Like I had to go through a couple things. I was listening to what's the name of this album? Border Kids. So I
Mm-hmm.
checked Border Kids out. I like the message in that. And then most recently, which I got to congratulate you on, is the album you released a few weeks ago, Word.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to definitely salute you because when I listen to that, since I'm in this underground space, I don't hear nobody pretty much. I don't hear you trying to rap like such and such. I hear reality rap. I hear a message. I hear, you know, you got to stick by your word. Like that was the tonality and the message through that. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely
Mm-hmm.
want to segue and talk about your album that you just came off with because that's why you on here, man. I want to interview you and talk
Mm-hmm.
to you about what you're doing. So first off, congratulations on the album Word that was released on Fat Beats. It's definitely refreshing to hear reality rap. So when you were gearing up to build up this project, what was the mind space and the mind frame you was going through?
You know, what's cool about this one is it took me a while to piece this one together. And when I was working with Slang Hugh in the very beginning, this is a project that I started working on and doing original recordings back in like as early as 2021. 22.
Mm.
And, what I was going through then is different than what I'm going through now. You know what I mean? Like, I've been, it's been a year of transition for me and a lot of change. So, but the making of that album, I was in a pretty good headspace, man. Like, not that I don't always, I'm not to a certain degree positive and motivated, but, we as humans, we go through ebbs and flows and ups and downs. And, I was in a space where I was very creative, and I knew that after my first few projects that like I wanted to kind of get away from the street stories and kind of giving people that it was a time for me. And Border Kids, you could hear what I was doing.
Yeah, you was
Aztec, as
telling
you
some
could hear.
story on Border Kids, man.
Yeah, man. And it's kind of an untold story because we really were back and forth, you know what I mean? We was really going to Mexico like that. We was getting it in the Southwest, bro, which is a totally different
Sound like a totally
environment
different ball
than
game.
like being in Brooklyn or the Bronx, like, with like dime bags in your socks and shit. You know what I mean? Like, we was just dealing with shit on a different level. And I wanted to paint that picture. And, but I knew that it was something I wanted to quickly elevate from because, I still touch on aspects of my life in, to this day. But one thing I'm very careful about, man, and this is something that doesn't really do me any favors, but I'm very careful about putting content out there that's going to influence people to do anything dangerous or damage their life in any way, bro. And I speak from a place of experience because growing up on Mob Deep and you know DMX and like there was some music out there, man. That it was definitely influential and sometimes for the wrong reasons. And I'm not saying this is no slight at either one of them because these guys are like idols to me. I grew up looking at Prodigy and have like gods, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like especially QB, like the whole Queensbridge sound, bro, like Cormega, and that's what I love about Cormega too. Is Cormega always had like this like the good message with the crazy shit. And
Oh
Nipsey
yeah.
did it like that, Pac did it like that. And this is probably the reason why some of these artists are my favorite artists because, and that's why Word was so impactful because it's literally talking about what we're saying and like the whole idea of this vibration and how it can affect people and from the first sample, in the Maya Angelou shit where she's just like it gets into your clothes and on the walls and it like I get goosebumps just talking about that shit, bro, because it's something that I take probably even too serious. You know what I mean? I think that um because I also am a student of the culture, not just a student of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm pretty outspoken about just like my influences, like Malcolm and Deb Prez, and just understanding what this culture represented. It doesn't represent privilege. It doesn't represent glorification. It can, we see examples of it in all different levels, but I'm very careful about personifying myself and my life in a way where it would influence people to do fucked up shit. And, I wanted to kind of start to bridge that gap between making, being who, like true to myself and who the fuck I really am. Because, man, I'll always, like, the streets will always be a part of me, dog. Like, that shit, you know, it made me who I am. You
I'm
know what I
gl-
mean? But I
I'm
had to
glad you
graduate.
can I interject. I'm glad
Yeah.
you're saying this. It's so refreshing to hear any artist say what you're saying because often we get, well, if you want a role model, look at your parents and don't expect rappers to do X, Y, Z. And it's like, dog, like we grew up. I'm our age. We grew up, and that music did influence us. So it's good
Yeah.
to hear an artist like yourself take accountability and say, "Nah, we do have to watch the words that we're putting out in the universe because there might be some 14-year-old kid looking up to us and say, hey, well, I listened to this album and he's talking about X, Y, and Z, so let me go try it." So I just want to commend you on that real quick before I let you go back into your statement, man. That's definitely refreshing to hear.
I appreciate that, man. And, just to kind of speak frankly, because, I am a little bit of a, I guess I could be the exception to the rule because I'm Italian and, mixed European. And I think that I'm gonna put it lightly, you know what I'm saying? But I think that, because I'm not on the Lord Jamar thing where I'm like,
We
where
gonna we
some
gonna hold. Can we hold that? Because I actually got a question. It's a
sure.
question in the interview, so don't go too deep. But I got a question on
Cool.
that. Trust me.
Cool. So I'll bounce back to it, but just to kind of put it out there lightly, I think that number one, um, this is a culture that was built in certain areas, and there was every ethnicity present, but predominantly, you know, Black and Latin culture. You know what I mean? Like just to speak free, just to be blunt about it. And I think that if you are coming into this as a European, like number one, you gotta be you gotta be dope, and number two, I think being a little more cautious on how you project yourself because you got to remember, like, God forbid you come in and affect like young Black youth and like, bro, what kind of piece of shit would you be? You know what I mean? Like, I hold everybody to the same standard, but like
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like, I think that we have a job to like, when I went to New York, bro, like they'd be like, bro, who the fuck is this random white dude from fucking Phoenix, bro? Like, the fuck? So I really had to kind of go above and beyond to really prove myself. And, I was very careful to like, and I think that's part of my influence too. Like, Dead Prez was a huge part of my influence growing up. And, you know, Stickman specifically really like spoke to my heart and my conscience. And I knew that, not like conscious shit gets a bad rap, bro. But like, I knew that I wanted to not influence, and I felt like it was my job to like be like even more like on point with that shit. You know what I mean? So like, I wanted to like, cause you gotta be honest, man. Like a lot of young fucking hip hop fans are young white kids, but
Oh
you're
yeah.
still gonna reach the
Oh yeah.
culture. You're still gonna reach people that are indigenous to this culture, and I wanted my brand and who I was to really reflect my mind and my soul and who the fuck I am. You know what I mean? Which is like I got a good heart, man. Like I mean I've done some dirty shit, but like man, like I would even when I was in the midst of it, I would never like go tell a young kid like, hey man, you should go do this. You should hit this lick. You should do this. I was always kind of being like, hey man, like you know, you probably don't want to fuck with this shit because like it's there's only a few ways out of this shit. You know what I mean? And I think after doing time and really like reflecting as a young man, like was really able to be like, yeah, this ain't it, and it's not it for anybody. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to be a preacher. I'm just saying like there's a way to put your art out there where it's like, yo, here's what I've done. Here's some of my stories. Like I've definitely done some wild shit. I got some crazy stories, entertaining as fuck, man. Running from the cops, getting locked up, doing crazy shit in the streets. But at the end of the day, it's not when I look back on my life, it is not that. It's not the shit I'm most proud of. The shit I'm most proud of is being a good father, being a good role model, being healthy, being a part of the art form and really, really like being blessed to put words together and make really dope music, as I perceive it to be really dope music. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, it
Andre
definitely
had a
is,
dope
man.
quote. Andre had a dope quote. He said, instead of just looking at what you don't like and what you don't want to fuck with, make the music that you want to listen to, that you want to hear. You know what I mean? So I loved when Nipsey came out because Nipsey was a Crip from South Central rolling 60 and he was repping for his gang, but he was also motivational as fuck. And I think it shows a lot of young kids, especially young kids from the streets and from the hood, that like there's a way out, bro. And part of that is using the art form itself as a outlet to create and to tell your story, And I love it when people are authentically them, as gangster as it is, you know what I mean? But the problem is what happens is, especially right now, we're seeing an influx of a lot of fake gangsters, bro. And the problem with fake gangsters is number one, you're literally gonna influence people to live a life that you ain't ever even fucking lived. You know what I
That
mean?
that
And
that was a lot of the early 2000s, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
that too, that part too, man. So that's not a generational thing. That's why, like,
Yeah.
when it comes to the Renaissance, I'm like, yeah, it is a Renaissance, but you could probably take a large percentage of it and just press delete and you'd
Mm.
probably be good. You know what I mean? Because, like, I don't really, honestly, I don't really listen to that shit. Like I don't like, and that's why my music it sounds different. And I appreciate that. That was one of the best compliments I can get is originality. And you know, I don't really listen to too much underground content because of the content matter, bro.
Mm.
And I'm very cerebral. Like I understand. Like I program my subconscious in a abundant way, in a loving way, and in a positive way. So I don't really like to have that, in my psyche like that. So, I listen to shit like it's a little bit more um, prolific and just a little bit more, just positive, man. And, that's why I've always been outspoken about being a fan of Kendrick and Andre and other artists like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's some people I don't really fuck with their music like that, but I love their message. You know what I mean? Like, and so like I probably take that over like that classic New York sound, which I fell in love with as a kid, and I love it. But at the same time, like, just due to the content matter and how everybody's want to cook that brick in the fucking
And
air
the air
fryer.
fryer,
You know
man.
what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
man,
yo,
it's so played out too. Everybody wants a ski mask on. Let me tell you, man, how many times do you think we did dirt and people were using actual wool ski masks? Like, come on, man.
the, I wanted to talk about a powerful track on Word,
Yes,
which is
sir.
which is Logos. I thought
Mm-hmm.
Logos was a dope track. I think that's track number 2 on the album, 2 or 3, and it was
Yes, sir.
just pretty much a overall a manhood track to me. Like some of the
Mm-hmm.
principles of being a man is, you got to keep your word. Your word is who you is, and from the way that you are harmonizing on the chorus and the overall message, I just want to talk about when you talk about keeping your word. Who has kept their word with Maze on your journey within this culture?
Mm. Um, I mean the standouts, coach. Um, coach, he comes from that culture and he understands like what word is bond really means. I mean, a lot of New Yorkers, it's a popular phrase, you
Yeah, it
grow
came from the
grow
5% Nation. Shout out to the
that's right.
guys and nurse.
Yeah, that was the foundation. And, like I probably honestly got that seed planted from Wu Tang, and just hearing the way they would talk. And a lot of it, before I had studied, the 5% Nation and the NOI. And, we could skip right to the GOAT and just talk about Malcolm because honestly, bro, like there's so much bullshit in all the Abrahamic faiths and that whole shit. And like to me, Malcolm just exemplified like and just personified like what it meant to be righteous and what it meant to really, really, Malcolm kept his word. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like he was also a stand-up dude. You know what I mean? So I personally kind of graduated from a lot of the Abrahamic faiths, even though I could appreciate that terminology coming from that as a foundation. When you study like just the 12 jewels and you understand knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and you have a good grasp of that. I think like some people run with that, and some people use it as an excuse to still do fucked up shit, and then they hide behind it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah. You
um,
got a point there, man.
and I'm not taking no shots specifically. I'm just saying, like, based on like everything I've experienced, every single faith, every single person,
Yeah.
you know, they're individuals, man. And like I'll be the first one to tell you there's a difference between Clarence X, the 13th, and El Hajj El Malik Shabazz, bro. And that goes for Elijah Muhammad too. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
they're
you
not
about to
all
get in trouble, man.
they're not
You
all
about
the
to get in
same.
trouble, man.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it, bro. I ain't worried about
They
it
gonna be
because
like,
honestly,
yo, who's this dude talking about L? Oh my goodness.
that's
Yo,
right. We
Todd,
call him
man,
by his real name.
they gonna
We can
cancel the
say,
show before it start, man.
I know, right? We could say Malcolm Little too. We could say
Yeah.
Detroit Red too. You know what I mean? Like, when to me, there's just such a beauty to like accountability, and to me, like that's why this shit supersedes music to me. This supersedes ego. This supersedes some sort of fucking rap persona. You know what I mean? Like, Malcolm was someone who changed my life, and I probably got to that autobiography that Alex Haley wrote with Malcolm because of listening to shit like that, Prez. You know what I mean? Or, just that type of music that was in that vein. And Wu Tang was right there too. And a lot of the Wu Tang affiliates, you know what I mean? They were heavily influenced by, just Islam and 5% culture and gods and earths and everything. Like, I think that, you have a lot of people that represent it right. and they're righteous brothers. You know what I'm saying? Like I've met a lot of them, and I've been embraced by a lot of them as well. You know, so um, it means a lot, and I think that that whole term and the fact that it came from there, like that's something that's universal. Like your word is your bond. You know what I mean? Like the word is literally in every scripture. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what ideology you pick. You know, the word is very powerful, and you know that project was meant to be as impactful as it was, and that's why I kind of put it out there like in a way more musical way. It wasn't designed to be like just a rap album. And because whenever you look at like the classic albums too, like there was always singers and DJs and musicians and just more that went into it, you know. But um, I really pride myself on that. And when it comes back to your original question, like, Coach has kept his word. Some of my producers that I've been rocking with have kept their word. You know what I mean? And even on more of like just the artistic level, you know what I mean? Like there's probably more few MCs, but I can give people like, just to give a couple shout outs, like A Son Eastwood, someone who always he stands by his word and, has always treated me with respect and has integrity as an artist. And, you know, there's a few people like that, man, that have really been like solid. And I know they wouldn't fold on just some like, you know, fuck Maze or, oh, I heard this, so, I don't fuck with him or something like that. Like, which some people have. You know what I mean? And that's okay, man, because we're all different. Some of us just don't vibe, and some people just genuinely don't have a lot of integrity, and they don't keep their word. There's plenty of people that have been like, "Oh yeah, bro, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this." We all know that term, selling wolf tickets, bro. And rappers and producers, and
It's the
this genre.
industry in general, man.
Right,
Everybody,
right,
oh, yo, I ran into him at a party. Yo, let's get up and do something. Come on, man. Uh, I know. I'm pretty
right.
sure you heard that before too.
Right, 100%, man. So, but I'm there, like, I focus on the good, man, and I focus on the people that do keep their word. And, I'm a firm believer that people sink their own ships. You know what I mean? So I don't really have to go out of my way to prove. We all, especially MCing, man, we love to kind of be like, we love to shit on the competition, and that's just part of the art, bro. Like, it's fun, I definitely chastise people that do not keep their word, and the beauty of it is we've all been that person once or twice. We've all been that person that is like, whether you cheated on a girl, whether you
Hey,
told your
hey,
kid,
hey, hey. I don't know what you talking about, man. I ain't never.
hey,
Boy,
look, hey,
oh,
look, bro,
hey,
look,
wifey. I'm
yeah,
faithful as they come, baby.
allegedly. No, I'm,
Oh,
I'm saying like I'm just saying in general, bro. Like saying like telling your kids you go,
now you
hey,
right with
look,
that one. I done told my son we about to go to the mall, knowing darn well I ain't going to the mall today.
exactly, man. So from the small things to the large things,
Yeah,
and I can
that's a
only
good
speak from
point.
personal experience, but but I tell you this, the times that I've done that type of shit, it's came back to me, and I fucking learned, bro. Some lessons are more painful than others, but I learned to really, really the best way to do this life thing is to learn from those mistakes and become the best version of yourself humanly possible. Like there's been times in my life where I look back and I'm like, damn, I was a fucking dirtbag, bro. Like I
Mm.
told stories in front of people, man. It's funny, I was with Coach, we were shooting a video, and I was telling some stories about just like some random shit, like relationship shit I've been through. And man, my boy G Media was looking at me. He's like, bro, what the fuck? I'm like, listen, bro, I was a fucking kid. All right. Like, I'm in my fucking 20s. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, bro. Like, we've all like, and some more than others, man. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could go back and be like, oh man, I was like an upstanding citizen my whole life and I never did anybody dirty. And, I was always honorable. But, bro, I had to learn to become that. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like that's the beauty of forgiveness, man. You got to forgive yourself too and understand like we've all been, in that place where we made mistakes and we learn from them. And if you don't learn from them, you just end up being a dirtbag for life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm at the point now where it's like I don't want to get anything from the universe or from God that I don't deserve. And by doing that, I have to have integrity and honor and respect. And be truthful and stand on business. Like you can't stand on business if you doing bad business. If you're a fucking liar, if you know, like I used to steal shit. You know what I mean? Like I don't steal shit. I don't want nothing because all that shit I had to pay back tenfold, man.
It's a
You know
good
what I mean?
point.
Like karma or just universe or shit coming back. What goes up comes down. Like all that shit is real. Life comes down to a lot of simple cliches, man. And you know we got to remember too. Like hip hop was born in the streets, man. Like you know this is a culture that right now is. I mean, even always has been filled with a lot of people that are like fucked up. You know what I mean? Like not everybody's Rakim. You know what I mean? Not everybody's common sense. Not everybody's even Nas, man, like, like not everybody's as prolific. Not everybody, cares that much. Some people just want to just be them and they're still out there, fucking whatever, drinking whatever, smoking whatever, robbing whatever. And as much as like that's a part of this culture just because of like it's still like it came from the streets,
Hmm.
it's still something where like it doesn't supersede being a good human. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck what art form or what culture you're a part of. If it comes at the expense of not being a good, decent human being, then I don't want it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a human first, and I'm a part of the culture second. You know what I mean? Like, that is,
I want you to put a pin in that because you about to segue right into the next question, man.
come on, jump in there. You gonna have to you have to cut me off because I'm long winded, bro. I don't got
Yeah,
no problem. Just jump
some
in.
of your points is cutting in, but I like where you're going with it because that's exactly where I was heading into it. So remember when I told you to put a pin in when you were talking about Lord Jamar? So here's where we're gonna get back into it. So
Come
he
on.
got a song called Mixed Roots with featuring A Son Eastwood. So
And
he,
Dan Nicholson.
definitely. So here's the context. So the context I'm gonna lay for this question. For me, real art isn't bound or confined by color. Within this art form of hip hop and the culture, we have allowed, a majority of all backgrounds to participate and contribute to building this culture. Again, for me, real art isn't defined by color. All different backgrounds contributed to this. With the song Mix Roots, yourself and other feature artists discuss y'all backgrounds and discuss how that played a part in building you as a human being and played a part in you guys as an artist and what brings us together. That's the message I
Mm-hmm.
got in that from all you guys when I was listening to that record over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up first, did you find it difficult to navigate in this culture from your background? Because we talked about that earlier in this interview. Or do you feel that you have a major responsibility in this art form coming from your background and your mixed roots?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the context and that's the question.
Yeah, and we touched on that earlier, and just to kind
Mm-hmm.
of like reaffirm that, like, yes, I knew, I mean, Coach, the first thing he started talking to me, man, he's like, oh, bro, like, I already know, fucking, signing a contract with a white rapper, fuck, man, that's an uphill battle, and I'm like, yeah, dog, I already know, trust me, I done got, I remember when I first started rapping, it was like, everybody compares you to Eminem, uh, so we have we grow to have a large disdain of that comparison. I'm not speaking for other rappers with less melanin, shall we say? And we gonna be real accurate here too, because like I love this man. I love this guy was talking about people of color, and he's like, I don't really like that because what if we
I don't
just
like it neither. I'm black.
because he was like, we're actually the majority. So what if we just called y'all like the people without color? And then it'd be
Yeah.
like, nah, that don't really have the same ring to it. But like we've learned to accept other connotations that are fairly derogative. And for my thing is this, let's just go right to the point. All life came from fucking Ghana and the Congo or whatever the fuck, okay? So we all share that same DNA. We all have melanin. It just depends on how much.
Hold on.
Okay.
We got to get something straight before Lord Jamar wants to box me. We're going to have to put some respect on the continent of Africa and the beginning, the origin of East Africa. Because if I don't specify that, they're going to say I ain't doing the knowledge correctly. But I'm going to let you go ahead on your point, man.
Yes, and if I'm slightly off by all means, like when I think of the Congo, you're talking about one of the major rainforests in the world, and to me, Africa, which means with that which comes from the word Afrique, means without cold. right? So you're talking about the birthplace of civilization. You're talking about um, where more than likely all life began. You know, you can make an argument for South America, probably. Either way, you're dealing with continents and geography that
Hmm.
produces people with less melanin or with more melanin, excuse me. And we know from the way that genetics work is that when you deal with recessive genetics, we know that light comes from dark, right? The same way the universe works, right? You had the universe before there was light in it, right?
Do the
So
knowledge.
that's right, through
Do
the
the knowledge,
knowledge.
my brother.
So, and and this is not something like when I really went into like hermetics and real deep universal knowledge and universal history, all these things kind of became exposed to me where no longer did I desire to put some sort of man-made faith around it, right? There is a level of this that is a mystery, but what's not a mystery is that we all came from darker people, right? We came from people with melanin. So when you really understand that, the terms black and white are constructs that was created by the elite to convince people that you are on either side of the spectrum, when really all you are is a variation of tan, and either dark, you either have more melanin or you have less melanin, which is usually environmentally based, right? So, we all know why some Italians are darker and some Italians are lighter, right? Depends
Oh
on
yeah. What part of
whether you
Italy?
came from the mountains, right? And we all know
Uh huh.
about the Spanish Moors conquering Italy and, or Sicily rather. And, like there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? There's a reason why we all look the way we do. But you know what that doesn't take away is that we all still share the same genetics, the same DNA, and we all came from the same place. Now, when you look at human history, you will see there has been time and time again and over again, we see the marginalization and the oppression of darker people. It happens to this day, whether you go to South America, whether you go to Puerto Rico, whether you go to, anywhere in America. You know what I mean? Like there's always been this, this fight against original man for some reason, bro. And, one thing I know is that you can find people with the most amount of melanin that are still pieces of shit. And you can have people that have zero melanin that are great stewards of humanity, right? So I refuse to judge a human based on how much melanin he has. I see all these clips, and there'll be these clips I've seen literally people like, oh, well, I've never met a good white person. Like, what the fuck? Like, you ain't never met a good white person or a bad black person and vice versa. Like, you got racist white people. Like, I ain't never met a good black person. Like, what the fuck? That is the most asinine, ignorant shit I've ever heard in my life, bro. And at the end of
It
the
also
day,
could be. It also, not to cut you off, and I
uh,
agree with you. Let me just clarify. I agree with what you said because I don't subscribe to that neither. I'm talking to you. I don't talk to cats. Somebody might even check my background and say I'm mixed ethnically, looking at my mother, yada yada yada. So I don't subscribe to that. There's no
yeah,
good non-black people. But I also think that ignorance come in because I travel down south. There are some communities that you drive through West Virginia or Tennessee or Mississippi, like you drove through all down south, and they've been secluded from from civilization for the last 100 years. But I do agree with the premise, but I do also see where some people can get stuck based on what town they were located in and how stuck and secluded they are. But I'll let you go ahead.
100%, man. And it's like that, across the globe too. Like if you go to Egypt and you're a black dude from New York, they might not treat you like you're a North African.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's not just white Europeans that are judgmental. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, like Egypt does not look at themselves like the rest of Africa does. They are very much like their own thing. People, we have to understand that these are individual countries and they all operate differently. And
54
most
beautiful different countries, multi-ethnic groups, many
that's
languages.
right.
Yeah, that's the confusion of the continent. And not just Africa, even Asia. Like a lot of people think like Asia's just China. And it's like, no, there's a lot of other small countries on that continent and
Right.
so
And
forth. But
on the flip side, though, what I won't do is sit here and justify and try to downplay what the fuck white Europeans have done, right? Like, you know, uh, from the Howard Carters and the De Beers of the world that have pillaged Africa for over a century. And, what's been done is absolutely horrific. You know what I mean? And I don't subscribe to the excuse like, oh well, they there's cultures that did it to their own people. Sure, there's always going to be that where there's north and south, or there's a lighter and a darker part. Where like they're going at each other. But I think that a lot of it was manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to specifically talk about the United States, like we went from genocide to slavery to mass incarceration. And, if you black, you still technically can feel the same effects today from laws that were, put into effect in the early 1900s. So like, there's something to be said for that. You know what I mean? And this is going back to your question. Like, yeah, I do feel like it is a responsibility of mine to like, you know, not just like be on my P's and Q's, because I'm not. And I don't really give a fuck about offending anybody, because like I'm never gonna speak something that's so egregious that it would be like, oh, this dude's a racist piece of shit. Like
Well,
that's just
more importantly over that, like I posed that question for a specific reason, and you already answered my question. But let me just come out straight and say it, just to keep it real with you.
mm,
We ask these questions to see who's really about the culture and who's really not. And I could tell off rep from the first 2 minutes of talking to you, I don't get culture vulture vibes. You seem like you're a student of hip hop, and you really love this culture. A person that is just getting in here to rap just to make some money wouldn't have said half of the stuff you said. So I
right.
can tell that you're not just from what you're saying, like you just didn't read that off Chat GPT.
Nah,
You know
nah.
what I'm saying? Like that's not a Chat GPT quite. That's you reading books, you being around the culture, you traveling, you meeting different people. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, once again, I can appreciate that. That's why I posed that question, just to see like, yo, is this dude really about what he's saying or else? And from Enveonline, man, there's no culture vulture vibe here. So I just
I
had to throw
appreciate
that
it.
in there, man.
I appreciate it. I passed the test. And honestly, bro, like I think that that's like that's a good thing. And I feel like a lot of people get uncomfortable, and a lot of people they stray away from like all the conversations that would ruin Thanksgiving or some shit or whatever, or potentially get you, looked at a certain way. To me, like I run towards that shit, bro. I love it. Like I love discussing that, because to me that's real culture. And that's when you talk about hip hop. Like hip hop came
It's a universal
from,
language.
and it came from, you know, marginalized kids whose fathers were mainly sent to Vietnam and drafted, and they got the chance to play with records, bro. And this culture was born because of that. And that's a beautiful thing. They were around their mother, and their mothers were very creative. Women have natural creative energy that they pass on to their kids. That's why we also look at Italians can kind of relate, because we look at the matriarch as like, very much head of the household. You know what I mean? And like there ain't nothing like real shit. Like if you look at black women and you look at Italian women, there's a lot of similarities, bro. Like they don't take no shit. You know what I mean? Like, and that's and obviously when you say black, that's once again like there's black Puerto Ricans, there's black
You
Argentinians.
looking at one? I'm a black Puerto Rican.
You know what I'm saying? So like that gene extends into so many different mixed ethnicities, and it's such a powerful gene. Like like all of my kids, my kid's mom is European, so all my kids look Italian. If you take a black dude and a white woman, they they gonna look dark, bro, because it's a dominant gene. And the way that Europeans and just people with lesser melanin, the way their genetics work is it recedes, and it is naturally gonna fade out with time. And this is why like you can't get black from white, but you can get white from black. Once again, these terms I just don't really like, because there really isn't a such thing as black or white. But there is.
Scientifically, is not.
Correct. We do it for the sake of conversation, and
Yeah.
I'm cool with that, as long as I disclaimer, hey, like I really don't. I'm not gonna be that dude that's like I don't see color. Like fuck that, bro. Like I'm saying, like there are people that have a ton of melanin that are as close to original man as you could possibly get, and then you have people with very little melanin. But what I judge a motherfucker on is their soul and who they are as a human. You know what I mean? Like I do
I,
also when Malcolm used to speak, I think he made some good points where it's like I
yeah, I wanted
cannot
to.
I can't
Can I interject?
yeah, come on.
So I was gonna segue like you, yo, man, you really on top of your game, man. What I was about to interject is pretty much the next segment is called Unity. So I'm probably gonna cut into what you was gonna say, but I had to interject. So
Go
you
ahead.
talked about studying Malcolm X during your first bid. One thing about Malcolm's last days is he was starting to unify. It wasn't just about religion, you know, it was about unifying all people. This is why he was going across where he went to and coming back and so forth and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly, if you can, because I got a few more questions after this. Um, when you study Malcolm, how did you apply that knowledge in your personal life as far as the unity thing? And what parts did you take to apply to you as an artist?
So Malcolm before Mecca was different than Malcolm after Mecca,
Mm-hmm.
right? After he made the Hajj. And one thing that quote I was gonna mention is, like, and I've heard it from multiple people, but um, I think that especially during certain time periods, I think it was healthy if you were black to look at every potential white person as a potential threat. Because look at what was happening to the people, right? Look at what was happening to your people in certain areas.
Yeah,
Like,
my family's from the South. Like we didn't have no choice. No disrespect to anybody out there. So
nah,
I
by
throw
all
this
means,
this
bro.
I throw
I
this
still to this
disclaimer.
day,
My grandmother still tells me to this day she remembers picking cotton to this day, and she's only 78 years old. It's not like she's 100. So
right?
you got a 70-year-old grandmother telling you, well, 78 telling you, I still remember picking cotton, and this is how we had to maneuver to survive. I see why, but go ahead.
No, 100%. And it's like that's why, like, I'll be honest with you, like I've probably had more negative interactions with white folk than I have with black folk, and not because I'm looking for it. It's just because a lot of them have a fucked up ideology, and they were taught by their parents, and it's honestly it's fucking retarded. But at the end of the day, like that's who they are. I'd also rather people show their true colors and be who
Mm-hmm.
they are, even if it's hateful as fuck, because it lets me know my enemy. Right, like that was a big Rage Against the Machine song coming up. Right, know your enemy,
Facts.
and I like it when people are outspoken about it because I'm like, cool. Now I know like the racist piece of shit that you are, whether you on the black Muslim side of it or the white Christian side of it. Like if you judging somebody just based on their melanin and how they look, like that shit is skin deep. Like these people could do you dirty and you gonna trust them just because you look like them. You know what I mean? Not
Mm-hmm.
every enemy you have has a pale face. But at the same time, I do not fault anybody. If I was black, right, I'm looking at white people like skeptical as fuck. Like even to this day, I don't give a fuck. Like I'll be the first one to tell you. It's also like I don't really. I'm not gonna be like the identity crisis guy either, but like I don't really like look at myself like a typical white person. You know what I mean? Like I've met typical white people, and bless their heart, like I've met some good ones, man. I've met some shitty ones, but like you know, I've never really like felt like I fitted in with them either. You know what I'm saying? And like to a certain extent, like there was a point in time where I felt very fitting in black culture because it was something that kind of took me in and educated me and really like made me who I am. You know what I mean? So like there was time where I felt closer to the culture because of my experiences with the culture and the fact that like, hip hop was something that and some of the people in it. Like when I went to the projects in Queens and people were just like, yeah, bro, you good. You can stay at the crib. You know what I mean? Like, I've had my own family not even want me to do that or let me do that. So it's like, you know, when you have those experiences, it just showed me that everybody is human. You know what I mean? And this is not a melanin thing. This is a soul thing. This is a spirit thing. But going back to your question, I was able to know when Malcolm came back from Mecca and he did some of the speeches right before he got killed. It was like a huge difference of like, okay, what stuck out to me was like we all kind of will go towards what we're comfortable with, like Norwegians with Norwegians, both Muslims, right? Like Spaniards with Spaniards, both Muslims. This country from Africa, they stay with their own people. There's plenty of ideologies out there that don't believe in mixed race like relationships and shit, and they're like, oh, we got to keep the bloodline. To me, like, we got to be this diverse people because because Africa spread out and mixed with all these different cultures, and that to me is beautiful, you know. But one thing that I think Malcolm realized was that they were all Muslim, and like he came back and he was like, bro, not all white people are your enemy. Like, I mean, Huey P and Bobby Seale knew this. That's why they started the White Panthers. They had a whole group. It was a political party called the
Mm-hmm.
White Panthers, and they were Europeans in that part of California, in Oakland, and you know where the Panthers started. There was in solidarity with what the Black Panthers were doing, and like I'm not gonna make any analogies to what's going on currently because it's so clouded with social media and media in general. But like I've seen firsthand plenty of white European people that stand in solidarity with black folk and what they go through, and by all means they should be championed as allies, man. Like it is a human thing, where it's like it shows that we care about each other. And then when we see one race or one group of people that's darker than others and they're constantly marginalized and constantly oppressed, I think it's our duty to stand up. And you could say, hey, use your privilege, or you could say just be a human or whatever. But to me, like, that shows like ultimate like spiritual maturity to be like, okay, I may have it easier, but I'm not just gonna sit back and be like, oh shit, that sucks for y'all. Nah, man, this a human thing. We in this together, bro. And that was something that I learned from the culture early on. So like for me, I've had, I mean,
That was also, to interject, that was also a powerful part of me. That was also a powerful bar from Pac. He has a bar in one of the songs where he said it's not about black and white, it's only human.
mm-hmm.
And that was a message from Pac and a few other rappers to see things more than skin deep. But go ahead.
Kendrick said it real good too. He's like, he's like, I'm an Israelite. I ain't black no more. That word is only color. That ain't fact no more. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, I think a lot of rappers have put it really well, and then you have other guys that just still want to be like, oh, all white people are just a bunch of Yakub fucking man, like, whatever,
You
fucking
gonna get 125th Street in Harlem tight,
man,
because that's what
yeah, exactly,
you you
exactly.
gonna get the cats on 125th Street up my. Oh man, but I feel you, man. Yo,
Hey man,
I got a couple
I,
more questions on this,
you good, bro?
because
You
we
good?
crossing the hour.
You good,
So
man?
I want to talk. I got two more. Well, let's see. I want to talk about real quick the art within hip hop, which we talked about in the beginning, off before we even started this.
Sure.
Um, like I said, a part of this renaissance is artists infusing art into hip hop, and I think it's popularized because now we're back to buying vinyls, we're back to buying CDs and so forth. And it
Mm-hmm.
got me a couple times. Like I actually brought an artist CD because I saw the artwork, and that made me want to check out their music. So you talked about working with Luke Heath on a couple projects. I don't know if he's your main guy, but he's definitely contributed to a couple of projects. Can you talk about how you have used art within hip hop to pretty much bring your vision to life?
Yeah, man. Luke is my main guy too. Like that is definitely, he's from the UK. You know, just he's just a great dude. And I remember growing up, I was really attracted to certain albums because of the artwork, right? Like to me, a standout would be AT Aliens, right? Like the like Aquemini cover, right? And I just seen a post about that guy too, who Andre went and met up with him, and like this guy's a renowned artist and just phenomenally talented. And I think that it plays such a big role that you're using. I mean, hip hop isn't just the music on the record, right? Like it is the performance of it. It is the artwork behind it. It's the sonic quality of it. You know what I mean? The mix and master that so many people neglect these days because of having access to digital editing and so many things that make it more accessible and, you know, producible. But at the same time, like, you know, I'm a big fan of Rick Rubin, you know, Young Guru, and people that have worked behind the scenes to make music as great as it is. And I don't think that the physical artwork is any exception to that. I think
Mm.
that it's so pivotal to be able to create. And sometimes it's just a photo. You know, sometimes it could just be a photo. Like look at Word.
Yeah,
Word
it's your
was
face with the
yeah,
scribes
and
on it.
it's a picture of me that Cinematic took out in North Jersey when we were out in New York, and you know that's a good brother right there too. Like my guy Sin, man, he's a super talented guy. Him and Vegas always rolling together, and you know, these guys are just great, great with the media, and you know they're like documentarians. I always tell them, like, I always give them their flowers, man, because I feel like this whole renaissance has kind of been turned into a renaissance because of how much it's been documented, you know, and
That too.
um, you know, but just taking Word, taking a photo, and then just taking lyrics from the album and just putting it on my face, you know what I mean, and just kind of like that was a way to express it. It had to have the right emotion on my face. Like I had to pick the right photo. And, you know, I think that, you know, I didn't want it to be anything that was too assertive. I wanted it to be something that was still kind of like serious, but reflective too.
Hmm.
And, you know, and then other times I'm like, you know what? This album is more, we're going to go more animated and kind of cartoony with it because, you know, and part of that's my influence too, man. Like I'm a big fan of those albums I mentioned. You know, AT Aliens and Aquemini are probably some of the most influential albums for me. And even though I don't think I sound like Outkast by any means, but um, Andre 3000 is probably, you know, I'd say like, you know, after years and years, he's probably like number one to me. You know what I mean? As far as like the people that I look to that are a GOAT, you know, even without the solo album, you know, I still say
Mm,
that. I
that's
think, yeah, it's not a popular take. You know, I mean, for a while it was not.
the
So like,
second interview we do. We gonna have to round back to that on the second interview. But that's dope. I'm gonna put a pin in that. I'm gonna write that down.
yeah, man.
Keep going.
No, Andre is a character, man, and you know, I just relate to him a lot when he's just so human, you know, and he's so like vulnerable in so many ways, and it's just refreshing, you know, that there's artists like that that are
So on
not
a scale
just
of
like,
1 to 10, what do you think of the Flute album?
oh man, I could, I mean, I'll be the first one to tell him I could care less about
Thank
it.
you. Okay. So you're
Um,
real. You keeping it 100. I appreciate that,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Thank you. All this, oh man, the vibration of the Flute album changed the chakras. Look, man,
bro.
look. I love Andre 3000, but we gotta get that bullshit up out of here, man. I love you,
Look,
Andre, but that wasn't it. But I'm glad you kept it at that. Wow. Appreciate that, my
yeah.
brother.
But I'll be the first one to tell you, like, he said some things like he was like, you know, what am I supposed to rap about? Having a colonoscopy or something?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, first of all, like, my health is in good. I'm good, and so no, you're tripping. Like that is not all there is to rap about when you are at a wise age. But you have to remember a man who's seen the industry at his peak during his early 20s. You know what I mean? Like,
Got a point.
you know what I mean? Like, so I think that when you reach that level of success so quickly before you're even done developing, like as a man, like he's kind of like seen it all, done it all to a certain extent. So it's like I understand why he has that perspective. It doesn't mean that I agree with it because I'm sitting here. I was born in '84, bro. I'm 40 years old. You
I
know
was
what I
born in
mean?
86, right behind you.
And I still, I mean, I take care of myself. I feel like, you know, being Italian probably helps a little bit, aging well, eating healthy and shit. But I ain't perfect, bro. I lived a crazy life too. Like I could easily just chalk it up and just be pounding beers all day, look out of shape, looking like shit, feeling all old, being like, what am I gonna rap about? You know what I mean? Like, you know, one of my mentors, his name's Yazid, and you know, he was a part of the first Lyricist Lounge, and you know, he's a little older than me, and he's a wise dude, man. And he did this song called Back Pain, where he's basically just talking shit because like he felt like Andre was like doing us a disservice by doing that. So like by all means, man, like we're all human. And I'm just saying when it comes to a rapping ability level, I feel like Andre 3000 is someone who's just unmatched. You know what I mean? I feel like, man, like another hot take, I feel like Kendrick is up there, you know, and East Coast hates me for that, but like, I don't care. I'm like, I've listened to that man's music and been like, holy shit, like, this is incredible. So, like, And I feel like that about other artists that get slept on, right? Like, I'm a big fan of Mick Jenkins. Mick Jenkins is like super dope to me. And I feel like there's a lot of artists that just get slept on that, kind of get put in a certain category and they don't get the respect and the flowers they deserve. And a lot of it is because they're speaking on shit that is not part of the norm. It is not the status quo and they do things differently. And sometimes it just takes time for that shit to catch up. But just to your original point, Andre had insane art direction and whatever him and Big Boy were doing, like they just had some wild covers, you know what I mean? And those covers like inspired me to like incorporate high levels of art into my music, you know what I mean? Like I don't like taking, and please by no means is a shot at anybody who does. I'm just saying I don't like taking Renaissance art pieces and putting an album cover, putting an advisory sticker on it and or like Xing out the faces or
Mm.
whatever. That like that to me was, it was a Griselda thing at first, and then just everybody started doing it. And to me, I don't care who does it and how talented the artist was or how big their platform was. If you took a picture or a painting and altered it, that to me is not real art. It's a rendition of it and it's cool. What I like more than anything is original art. Whether you take digital shit or I prefer to have someone actually paint something or draw something and illustrate something, or I feel like taking a photograph of the artist itself themselves or a photo of like look at Pink Floyd, right? The Wish You Were Here single, with the guy that's on fire shaking the other guy's hand, you know what I mean? Shit like that that's just iconic for a reason, you know what I mean? And a lot of times it was just an extravagant photo shoot, but that makes for some amazing art. You know what I mean? So I feel like even if you go like look at the 70s were like the golden era of sound and music, and I feel like a huge emphasis was artwork. And like Pink Floyd has their own art book. You know what I mean? Like obviously it was a huge part of it, and I don't think hip hop is any exception, man. Like, and we also have an influx of all these young talented artists that are creative as fuck, and I think we have so much at our disposal to let these graphic artists and illustrators and painters reflect the music with a little bit of direction and really really like make a bigger impact. You know what I mean? Like if your artwork is just kind of lackluster or it looks like something you just pulled off a Google stock image and just put an advisory sticker on it, like I don't think that's going to be as well received if like you really really put some time and energy and sometimes resources behind it. You know what I mean? Like, my tattoo artist used to always have this thing on the wall that says cheap tattoos aren't good and good tattoos aren't cheap. You know what
Facts.
I mean? So sometimes you pay for what you get, and sometimes, like with my boy Luke, although he gets compensated, like he's not asking me for thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? Like he's more or less just wanting to be a part of the art and really really help me express my vision because he's a fan first. And to me, I consider him a contemporary, a friend. You know what I mean? Even though I got all the followers and I'm in the spotlight, not like that. I'm just saying, like, as far as being the front man and being the MC, like,
Hmm.
we get all but I try to emphasize the producer that I'm working with, the arranger, the who did the mix and the master, who did the artwork. And then, of course, Coach steps in and handles a business side of it, when it comes to rollouts and, um, just like even in the design, you know what I mean? And what we're going to do with it. Like, when you have people that are professional that play their part, it really makes the process that much, you know, more smooth and more effective as well. And I think that art is such a powerful tool. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason why we have the Louvre and the Metropolitan, and whether it's a Jackson Pollock or it's a Salvador Dali or it's a fucking the Lost Da Vinci painting. I think that there's obviously a huge importance to visual art as well. And music videos can go into that category, because it is technically still the visual arts. And, um, I have a lot of attention to detail when it comes to my own projects. So the artwork that represents my album or my project has to be, to me, equally as talented and equally as dope as the music itself.
Thank you. Gotcha. Here's the last question I got. So when you talk about bigging up the producer, bigging up the arranger, the last question is, what is the ultimate song that you haven't composed yet? And what is the impact that you wish it has?
The ultimate song.
That you haven't composed yet. And what is the impact that you want it to have?
And this reminds me of the Saturday Night Live skit where he's like, more cowbell, you know? They're trying to make the fucking the perfect song, or like the Dewey Cox movie where they're trying to make like this 20-minute grandiose masterpiece. I mean, when I think about it like that, it can be daunting because I think we always want to outdo ourselves and be like, oh man, I gotta create this. I think it's more about just being authentic and creating like the best music you can in that time and in that space, and letting the fans decide, right? Like
Mm.
Biggie didn't like the Juicy record, right? He thought it was kind of corny. Like it wasn't. He didn't want that to be the one, and you know, Bad Boy and Puff and all them wanted it to be the one, and it was for a lot of people. I mean, it wasn't my favorite Biggie record, but at the same time, like I think it's hard to tell what your magnum opus masterpiece is going to be, But for me, what it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, probably something like the song Aquemini, that just has like
Mm-hmm.
an unbelievable beat. The message is there, the cadence is there, it's got the effects, it's got the harmony, it's got the drop, it's got the mix and master. Like I would say something like along those lines. I definitely hear singers. I feel like the ultimate piece for me has to be with composers. So you talk about composing, making a composition. I think it's not just me rapping over a 2-track instrumental. I think it's very much going back to my roots and having multiple musicians involved. You know what I mean? Potentially multiple writers. When you look at a lot of the really really impactful songs over the decades and over the ages, sometimes there's two, three, four writers on that song.
Oh man.
So
Oh, I hate this for this to be the last. I can't wait to interview number two, man. Because that's not a
but
popular take for rappers. But I
nah,
appreciate the sincerity because when you look at the back of Beyonce album, there's a plethora of writers. When you look at Michael Jackson album, there's a plethora of writers. So you got a
exactly,
point there. So
exactly.
I want to finish off with this. You have an impeccable work ethic. Like I said, and you know this because you're the artist. You have over 23 albums out within a short amount of time, and it's quality work. Like you didn't throw out trash. You got quality work. And I believe listening to you on the other interview, you said you already have some stuff in the works for
Mm-hmm.
this year for 2025.
Yes,
So got
sir.
to ask you for your fans and for the people that's going to watch this on a playback. What's next for Maze and what can they look out for?
Oh man, if I could just kind of go down the list chronologically here, I think I actually have. Usually, I have a little bit of paper around this kind of guides me through it, but I'm gonna do another project that's gonna be multiple producers. That's gonna be next. It's kind of a follow up to the retro god tape that I did, and I was excited about that because a lot of the projects I do are producer team kind of duo concepts, which are dope because I think it lets the cohesiveness and the sonic quality really like speak. You know what I mean? Because that is so important. And I think it's more of a challenge to take multiple producers and make it all blend. Um, so I'm excited about this next project that's going to be coming out hopefully within the next month or so. And I know like a lot of feedback I get is like, "Oh man, you're dropping too much. You didn't let this breathe." And man, as much as I appreciate that, like,
You working,
everything.
man.
Hey, like,
You running laps around people.
why not though? Like I like on some Westbrook shit. Like, why not? Like,
Not
if
not
you
just
have
that.
it,
I don't know if you heard, but the legendary Jazzy Jeff said, while you're here, while however much time you have left, he said, I don't understand what artist who wants to keep a bullet in the chamber. He said, yo, let your gun go. Like you should leave
yeah,
here empty.
that's right. I'm trying to I'm trying to spend most of the money. I'm trying to have all this shit. I mean, look at people like Prince and Tupac. Like they had this just incredible catalog. And for me, like my pops has always been like, man, you're so prolific. Like, how do you come up with all this? I've had other artists be like, yo, how do you do it? I'm like, yo, honestly, like, it's not something I really try at. It's something where like writing has always been cathartic for me. And I just have a fucking it's just pleasing to me to be able to put together words and actually put pen to paper. I'm a type of dude that don't use a phone. Like I've never put a verse on my cell phone in my life. You know what I mean? I like the actual art of writing, which is why word was so important for me and so impactful for me. But, you know, projects that I'm really excited about, man. My brother Rob De Niro. He's actually his real brother is my boy Bishop, who did Eternal Summer. I was really excited because Rob has had a big hand in the underground scene, and he's worked with a lot of talented artists and a lot of staples in this little Renaissance thing. And you know, I'm really excited about this. You're gonna like that a lot as well because we talk about some of the topics we talk about on here. You know what I mean? Like we got a track on there called cancel culture, and that shit is fucking fire, man. Like it's like I don't stray away from those topics, and I know I probably should. Like I've had people like not like that, but I'm saying I've had people be like, yeah, that's not really the move for you to be whatever. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Like if I want to put my fist up on some RBG shit or on some Let's Get Free shit, I'm gonna do it, man. So that project's called The War on Us, and it's kind of playing off the Reagan era shit a little bit, but I'm excited for that one, man. It's got some dope records, some dope features. It's got a legendary feature on there, which is really dope. And then I'm excited about the Body Bag Band album. Me and Ben cooked up. It's pretty fierce, it's pretty aggressive, and it's kind of got that, like it's something you could work out to, it's something you could mosh pit to. So I think that one's gonna be dope. I think there's a lot of people that just love that energy, and I'm looking forward to getting that out. And then, I think the direction I'm going in, just to kind of give everybody a heads up, because I think it's important that people know that I'm not really going towards like any darker boom bap, any kind of cryptic, grimy shit. Like I'm really like not lightening up because my shit always has like kind of a stoic, kind of serious nature to it. Like you called it real life rap, like it very much is. But I've really been kind of like channeling some of my Mac Miller, and getting on like, some different types of like, even like Kendrick and Outkast vibes that have like singers and a lot of harmony and even more reflection because there's so much about me that people that my fans haven't heard, and there's so many things I've been through that aren't just street shit, music shit. Like it's personal shit, it's relationship shit, it's shit with my family. And I think that's why I'm so prolific, is because I take parts of my real life and I find a way to turn it into art. I'm really excited about the album that me and Benji Socrates put together. I'm really excited about this project I'm working on with this kid Oddfather from Phoenix. Um, and amongst others too, man. Like I have, I have a good amount of work that I'm still sitting on, and stuff that I'm still currently finishing and kind of tying up. But I'd say those are, those like, I'm really looking forward to get to those projects, and it's everything's in an order, where I'm not just like for firing and forgetting. I'm not just dumping anything as soon as it's done. Certain projects they gotta wait a little bit. That's why Word took 3 years because I didn't want to just okay, it's ready, let's go. I could have sped it up, but taking my time on it, it had way more of a profound impact, and it was at the right time where coming off of this last year, there's been a lot of pretty hard hitting albums, and I'm kind of like definitely like you know I don't want to say lighten it up. It's just that I'm getting a little bit more melodic. I'm getting a little bit more like harmonizing, a little bit more musical, and I think that's a really a part of who I am, and I wanted to grow into that and not like shock people off the rip. You know what I mean? I didn't want to come in to the industry and to the underground being like almost some harmonizing shit, even though there was always a little bit of that in there. Like I wanted to introduce myself and really like do that from like, like, hey, this is who the fuck I am, so people took me serious. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like when you hear like the first Wu-Tang album or you hear like the first, we needed to hear Hell on Earth before we heard, Hegelian dialect. You know what I'm saying? Like what Prodigy ended up turning into. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that like Section 80 before we got Pimp a Butterfly. You know what I mean? Like the, you kind of have to lay the foundation and be like, yo, this is who I am, and then from there you just go into different aspects of the self. And Complex, that album Complex I did last year, I think that was another kind of like warm up to like showing people that I'm not just this one trick pony. I'm not just this one dimensional monotone. This is what I do. Like I had to show people like sometimes my versatility can be a curse, man. And it's really been hard to like, oh, this is the sound I want to make. This is because I like to do it all. And I'm just getting to the point where I just want it to be more musical, and I think that'll be more impactful. And I think that you make better songs when there's multiple people involved in them. Some of the best music I've ever made were with actual musicians that were on the song as well. So, I think we have a good amount to look forward to, but my best work is yet to come. And so I'm still growing as an artist, and my best work is sitting on my hard drive right now, just waiting for an album cover and a release date.
Maze, man, I appreciate you again because, like I said in the beginning of the interview, I feel like you had to carve out some space for me to do this interview because of how hard you're working, man. And I hope this interview is a positive reflection on who you are as an artist. I definitely learned a lot about you. Hopefully, that your fans could get some insight. And definitely, I appreciate the dope conversation that we're having curating underground hip hop. So before we get off, I just want to say, yo, salute to you. And once again, congratulations on your album Word. And I'm definitely a new fan, and I'm looking forward to the music that is to come from you, man.
Man, I appreciate that, and I'm always humbled and honored to be on platforms, no matter where you guys are at with it, and where we all coming from different backgrounds. But at the end of the day, like when people really show me that value and that love, man, like that's like that to me is like the ultimate for an artist. You know what I mean? It's like being in front of a crowd and having them show you that return. That's the real return on investment, man. So I appreciate you just appreciating it yourself and understanding like what we put into it, and I put a lot into it. So I'm grateful for what you're doing. I'm, grateful to be on here, and, I'm glad to be able to share my art with the world, and, you're helping me get it out there. So, whenever you guys want to sit down, we'll go through some more projects this year, and, we'll reconvene, and, however long, and I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you again. I'm glad I passed the culture vulture test. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Like,
Nah,
I
man,
love it. I
definitely,
love it.
definitely. Maze, man, I appreciate before we log off. Can you put out your social media, obviously, just in case new fans stumble upon this, so of how they
Absolutely.
can find you?
Absolutely. We're working on getting the .com right now. We have the .com, but we're definitely looking forward to building the site. For now, anybody who's on the social media, you can get me on TikTok and Instagram, and any other platform, pretty much just under Maze Overlay, Maze over Ley Lay. You got there's music on my Bandcamp too. You got Spotify, all the DSPs. Looking to eventually get that to like like an even biz, or like just directly through the website. But pretty much anywhere you can consume music. I like to point people to my YouTube channel, Maze Overlay on YouTube, and there's a lot of great video work on there. So, but yeah, you can't miss me, man. Just type in Maze, on Instagram or whatever your preferred platform is, and it should pop right up, man. There's really only one Maze out there. So, but yeah, man, tap in.
Definitely. To the people that's gonna watch this on a playback, whether it's one person or 100 or 1,000 people, I definitely appreciate you. And tap in the Maze Overlay and look forward to a dope artist. Salute.
Salute.